We have the abilities to change our narrative. And I'm just going to say that for it's not just ourselves, but can you imagine the future of every generation?
Okay, welcome to another edition of the Journey to Freedom podcast, and I'm Dr. B, your host, and you can call me Brian. You can call me what's so fun. We are going to have one of these amazing podcasts today, and I say why it's so fun is because my guest today, we have so many similarities, so many things. The difference is I live in Denver and he lives in North Carolina. Other than that, he might be a couple days older than me and has lived a little bit more and has had an exciting life. But he's an engineer, so he's way smarter than me. But he goes by Dr. B as well, which is kind of cool, the things that he's done and some of the entrepreneurship stuff that he's done. So he's an entrepreneur as well. He's an author as well. He has several books that I'm going to let him talk about and your ability to go get them, and I hope that you do. He just has one of these incredible, fun lives, and so I was excited when I got to have him on the podcast and got to really talk about what Journey to Freedom is, because when we think about not being stuck, and we think about I do as many of you know the mindset daily that I send out that. I'm trying to make sure I hit 1,000 days, which is coming up straight without missing one. Yesterday, I talked about does the past, and you'll appreciate this, Adolphus, but I said, does the past determine your future? Because so many people say that all the time. Does the past determine your future? And I'm like, no. Your past is your past, and your experiences can help you with your future, but your past doesn't determine your future. And then the second part of that, does your future determine your reality? And that was, when you start thinking about that, hopefully it does, because you're planning your future, and the decisions you make today will determine the future that you have. So your future that you believe is going to happen now, obviously we can't predict our futures, but we can say, these are my goals, these are my dreams, these are my visions. This is what God has put inside of me, because part of the journey to freedom is helping you become the person you need to be in order to do why God put you on this planet, right? And what he put you on this planet to do. What is your purpose? Well, once you find your purpose, then you get to start planning for that future. And then that dictates your reality today. And so as Mr. Dr. B, Adolphus Al, as he has these many names, is going to talk about today, is your future is so bright. And the things that happened in your past are just that, where we get to take what we learned from our past. We get to take what we learned from our ancestors in the past, the things that they did, the shoulders that we get to stand on, and we get to extrapolate that and mix it all up and then put something together that is going to drop us into our freedom. And that's what the Journey to Freedom is all about. So, Dr. BL, just want you to tell your story to start out with. Maybe you can even start out with how folks can get a hold of you, so you guys can write this down, and so you can order his books. You can do that kind of stuff now. We'll have him do it again at the end. So start with that, who you are, how to get a hold of you. Then let's tell us your story, where you came from, what you did, all those wonderful things. As I tell every guest, you can start wherever in your story you want to. And so I have a feeling you guys are going to want to get out a piece of paper. You're going to want to just turn off whatever distractions you have on, pause it, because you have the ability to do that. Get ready, get yourself a glass of water, cup of milk, some coffee, something, and get ready to hear Dr. B. Al.
All right. First of all, I just wanted to say, like we normally say, it's an honor and a pleasure for us to be in the midst of, like Dr. Force B, or Dr. Bryant, because, when we think about freedom, freedom is not easy. And me being a soldier, and I'll get into that, but, wanted to started out with humble beginnings, coming from Miami, Florida. And if you notice, the last name is Bethune. And, real reason why that's really significant, there was a school called what? Bethune-Cookman College. and that's my aunt, great for. I mean, my aunt was Mervyn Cloud Bethune. So have some big shoes to fill, but growing up was in Miami, Florida, or Tallahassee or Daytona Beach, those type of places. You're growing up and you have admiration of I want to be a football player, I want to be a track athlete. Getting into that, but mom and dad always talked about, well, hey, in order to do that, you got to have your sports. So that was educators also. So when you start to think about all that, that's combination of me for when you hit Adolphus Bethune for or Dr. B or Al or that type, and have several books. You can look me up on for his LinkedIn tree for his, Adolphus for his Bethune, or you can just put it in Adolphus Bethune, and try to find me for that way. But that's what most people are doing out there today. They're looking for their passion, looking for what's driving them, but also, looking for what are they calling or what is their purpose, like Dr. B kind of mentioned. And I found out my purpose was, and I'll tell it just like what most people want to understand, there was no ball I couldn't catch and no one I could run down. And the reason why I say that, because I kind of grew up in my mom was an athlete, my dad was an athlete, and, grew up in a household. Can you imagine? It's like, what was it like? 8 of us, and that included for the parents. So, so the children, when you sat down at the table, you had to mind your manners, kind of grew up in that type of environment that Big Mama told you had to do something, or you eat what was prepared at the table, you did it. So those were the things for us that kind of helped me grow into the person I am today. Like it says, had admirations of going to college, high school, but I mean, you got to have your books, but you also got to have a plan. And if you see that engineer part, for I'm also a degreed engineer, but also a combat engineer from the United States Army Corps of Engineers. And if you think about that, they have task conditions and standards. So, those were things that was a pillar of my going up for us. I always had admiration of going to school and, being something else. But you got to sit down and say, okay, what's my plan? What I need to do? You got to line it out. So that kind of fell into my lap, task conditions and standards. So, when I look at all that, you look at this person talking before you, I want to, like it says, inspire you, but also ignite you to find your purpose. And your purpose could be talking just like me. And believe real reason why I can talk, I mean, I have family members in my family that are pastors or, attorneys that are doctors and stuff like that. And believe me, they can talk. So, I mean, I kind of picked it up honestly, but if my wife was here, she'd be ready to say, okay, cut it, because I can talk, but also I like to inspire you to your greatness. What Dr. B has told you on your journey to freedom, and your journey to freedom could center around a lot of things. When I started thinking about, and like I told you, I'm one of those guys that Dr. B sent me the questions, and like it says, I'm gonna go ahead and like it says, get down to the nitty gritty of it. When I'm like it says, a 10 or 11-year-old, for just like any other little kid, grew up in a project, so I'm a project kid, but you don't have to be subject to being a project kid. If you're a project kid or a Section 8 or whatever it is, that's in your mind. What's in your heart and your body is what God has put you on earth to do. So when I think about the 5 pillars that Dr. B talks about, your identity, the trust, the faith, the finance, and even for, like it says, the health part, I love that for us. And then, the question that he sent to me, and it made me think about, how I was going to inspire you today for us with this presentation, says he mentioned the question that says, why do you believe Black men get stuck and are not able to move forward? And that's a good question. And I say, if you're a Black man or Black woman, or even children that's watching this, this video, can you imagine this? And like I said, it's one of those type that, I looked at the audio and I wanted to be more, how they say, informative, but also show you how, if you believe in yourself, you can achieve it. So
I love it.
So when it comes back to, like it says, there's a phrase that I remember my dad said it, my grandfather said it, and and a lot of people that I've gone in travels for is around the world, and I do me around the world. Being an engineer, I've been to Guam. I've been to Italy. I've been to, you know, like it says, what is it? Korea, Afghanistan, Iraq for us, you know, and I love for us, like it says, what is it? Costa Rica for us, Panama. Uh, you know, that's just to name a few, you know, and I just had to think about my wife and say, look, stay focused, guys. You know, sometimes we got to have that. But going back to says the struggle for us is real. And that's what I always would hear from my grandfather, for and a few black men for that I can associate with, you know. And it says, and black men for that struggle for, can you imagine, amplifies that. You know, when you see stuff of that magnitude, you look at for the system. And I notice to tell people, because like I said, I'm an engineer, so I'm gonna look at the foundation, I'm gonna look at the system, I'm gonna look at the plan, I'm gonna look at the scope of work. So when I think about all this, can you imagine? It emphasizes looking at the system in place that makes black men, it's hard for us to what? Succeed. And we got to force reach beyond that force. And how do we reach beyond that? Like what Dr. B has mentioned, you know, you got to force know what your purpose is, but how your purpose is, you know, but can you imagine? You can find ways, and this always gets me about people, our people, black men, force either black women or even children force of any race or creed. Said, I don't know how to do it. What? You don't know how to do it? Do you have internet? And the reason why I said, do you have internet? Because can you imagine a YouTube channel has anything that you want? How to? And I'll just tell people that how to for mix eggs. You can look that up and find it. So, you know, go to the how to's, you know, and that's pretty much what I tell people. But then I'm going to get back to the question. It says it's not just about, excuse me, individual drive. It's about the admiration. And you got to have the admiration to go beyond what you have been dealt. Because remember, sometimes we are dealt things that the system is here to make us fail. But hey, but you got to rise to the occasion, my brothers and sisters, and everyone out there for us that listen to this podcast. We got to rise to the occasion. And how do you rise to the occasion? It may be systematic. It may be the socialistic factors that create a significant barrier. But hey, we can get around that barrier because you have to know what you need to do. And when I think about why black men get stuck, and you're gonna like this one. It's like,
All right.
okay,
All right.
I go back for and look, I go back and think about for look, me, watch this. That I saw a handful for firsthand doing for my time in the military and also, you know, competing for, you know, because when you think about for you playing football and you're running track, you competing, believe it or not, competing against your, like it says, the customer, competing against other force people that have the same abilities that you have. So you got to know how to work the leadership roles that you have been dealt. And sometimes you can't always be a follower. You got to be a leader. And in order to step up in this type of world or this type of system, you have to become a leader and know that role. And even for me as a sprinter, and I'm just going to tell this part, if I got a chance, the opportunity to be part of an elite team back in, watch this, 1984. I want to bring that out. And you can tell me, what does that say? Bethune is the U.S. best. And what happens doing every 4 years?
Wait. Go back. Were you running in that one? Oh my gosh. What was you doing there in
Well, in
1984?
actuality, for Dr. B, I got a chance for us to, how this is, my times were fast enough for us in college and high school for us. I'd already qualified for the 1984 Olympic trials. So
Los Angeles.
in Los Angeles, but since I was a military officer at that point in 1984, I had to go and try out for the all-army team. And it was no problem, but the problem was, see, we come up against barriers. The barrier is now, this is 1984. I'm already 2 years in the military, so I'm going through regimental training, going through in the field, going through combat, getting my mind focused on the battle and the, you know, the enemy. So now I get a phone call that says, hey, you know, someone told us about your application and stuff like this a long time ago, and you have been accepted. So you're going to Colorado Springs for us to start training. And, you know, and think about this, Dr. B, you know, I had already competed and my body was a little bit heavier and all this other little stuff. And my mind is focusing on taking care of the enemy, had prepared myself for combat, all this other stuff. Now I got to prepare myself to run again. Uh-oh, here we go. So see, these are some of the barriers that we had to encounter. So,
Gotcha.
when I think about all that, it's one thing that I learned from that, but also learning from the world, that I had learned. For as often.
Well, before you say that, just as we've been talking about, and let me put my face
Go
back
ahead.
on here a little bit. Uh, one of the things that well, I say there's some commonalities, right? So I grew up in Denver, Colorado, and I went to high school here. So I ran at the Air Force Academy in
All
Colorado
right.
Springs a lot. I went to college on a track scholarship in
Cool.
1983. I went to
Cool.
I went to Southern California. So I was a 400 hurdler. At the time, there were athletes like Edwin Moses. When I was I think in 85 or 86, a new person took over the reins, which was Kevin Young. So I got to run behind them and see their backs all the time
Ooh,
when I was
wow.
running.
I
So,
can
but
relate to that because I had Carl Lewis, Mel Latney.
yes. So I can remember there was a race at Mount Sac. So Mount Sac's a junior college in California, and it was I'm trying to the Coast Something Club that Carl Lewis was part of, and we were running on a Sunday, and he was the anchor leg of their relay, and I was the third leg of the relay I was on. And I can tell you, I
Ooh.
think I almost missed handing the baton off to the person I was standing because I was watching Carl run, way watching his back down the track, right? Santa Monica Track Club. That's who he's
Yes,
part of. And
yes.
so just to know that you were an athlete, I love seeing that banner. So I'll let you get back to your story. I didn't want to interrupt,
Okay.
but just as I think of
Well,
all
no,
of our
hey,
commonalities and things that we do, it's just interesting and fun. So
well, no, and that's good too because, like it says, I remember that Mount Sac relay. It was a Mount Sac relays, and also I competed there too, 100, 200 meters, and
mhm.
for the 400 because the coach told me, he says, well, if you want to become a little bit better and stronger, you need to run a 400. So I started realizing I started training for 400s and stuff, and ended up I was in the 100 against Carl, and of course I got fourth. Carl won, and then Mel Latney, and then Calvin Smith. They was like it says first, second, and thirds. So I got fourth, but I was not for disappointed because my abilities at that point. I'm a second lieutenant United States Army, and I'm coming out of the field and competing against these guys.
That's
I remember these
amazing.
guys, on
Yeah.
TV. So so now I'm competing against these guys, but Dr. B, just to go back to what you mentioned, see, that was another barrier and a struggle that we had to
Mhm.
overcome. And me being a
Yeah.
black man, so I'm saying, maybe they put me here for a reason to put me here to say, oh, he's gonna fail anyway.
Mhm.
He'll be back in a couple of weeks. So, but I said to myself, I said, oh no, they don't realize was God put something in me that can't no man or woman take out. So, just going back to for like it says that one thing again, so one thing I have learned that the world often expects black men to overcome obstacles that watch this that do not even realize exist. And see, that was one of those obstacles for us, Dr. B. At that point, they knew I wasn't given enough time, my because remember when you've competed, your mind gotta be right, the body's gotta be right, you gotta be focused, you gotta have the right diet and stuff like this. And my mind was thinking, hey, and I'm just gonna say it, killing the enemy. I mean, that was what my mind was thinking
Mhm.
about, killing the enemy.
Mhm.
So, when I grew up in that type of, grew up in a for as I would say, you know, thinking about in Florida, thinking about in Virginia, think about for in believe it or not, Virginia State University where I went to school, and competed in track and football. It's always you competing. So you got to
Mhm.
for rise to the occasion no matter what. For as like I said, obstacles is there, to pull you down. So like it says, I grew up in many for like it says, like many of us have to, like it says, the privilege of seeing watch this, a clear path forward. And that clear path is just like what we talked about for Dr. B. We got to know within ourselves, yes, I am a black man, you are a black man, but hey, we're not fussing, we're not fighting against each other. And I want people on the podcast to realize this is what this is all about. For us, his podcast is to recognize 100 black men, and I'm talking about successful in what we do. So the whole point is, what I'm trying to get people to realize and be inspired about this podcast is, can you imagine navigating for us to over biases, stereotypes, and even like it says, can you imagine for us limited opportunity? And sometimes we as black men, we go through that. So we have to know how to, excuse me, when I'm thinking about all that, in many communities, black men are often told both orally and also subjectively, right? That there is a potential, your potential is limited. So, I mean, yeah, I'm competing and I'm running and all this other stuff. And I says, my potential is not limited. The limit is on me in actuality. If I have it in my mind, just like it says, if I believe it, I can receive it. So the whole point is I want people to be inspired from this podcast, but be inspired by people like Dr. B. Be inspired by me, Dr. B, the second, or Al Bethune or Adolphus Bethune. Can you imagine? I want you to be inspired because watch this. If you, and like it says, I'm an analytical, so I'm going to write the stuff down. So I know I'm giving you the right message, but it says they have to work twice as harder for as just to be, to be seen or heard. And I mean, I don't know for you, Dr. B, I'm sure what you're doing now, you had to be not twice as harder, but you had to be 3 times better. And I remember that for us competing. I remember that for us, like I said, in the classroom. Can you imagine? I'll never get this. I'm a 6-year-old in the classroom in Miami, Florida, Daytona Beach. And guess what the teachers had nerve to tell me? Adolphus? I said, no, the name is Adolphus. Adolphus. She was trying to call me something else, so I corrected her. She said, excuse me, your name is Alfonso. I said, no, ma'am, my name is Adolphus.
Oh, gosh.
So we look, right. So we going back on the semantics of the name. But then she finally got to the point. She said, and what do you want to be? I said, I want to be an attorney. She said, oh, no, your dad's an engineer for his electrical, what you call him? That's what you're going to be. I said, no, ma'am, no, it's not. I said, so look, she sent me to the office. So see, sometimes we go through challenges like that, and and I'm gonna get back on track was because look, I thought about what my wife said again. She said, sometimes look, the minister or the how they say the pastor from like my family members kind of can jump on me. So the consistency of the peer pressure or the pressure creates a mindset for us that hard to break for us as black men. So that's what I tell most people. Can you imagine? That's what we do for us, as we go along. But but it's not just internal forces. Can you imagine? That's also internally trauma. Can you imagine trauma for us? And I tell most people that for us that can hold us back. Many black men we carry for the stigmatism of the weight of the generational trauma. And I know you, for Dr. B, I mean, I looked at some of your stuff, and that's why I really wanted to get into, I've gone through some trauma, for believe it or not, I thought I was a healthy guy, for like track and a football athlete, and for army, hoo-ha, combat soldiers, such and such, but then I also back in, and I'm just going to say in August, I had a little tragic event. I went down for, believe it or not, Dr. B, I had to learn how to walk again. I had to learn how to, I had to learn how to talk again. And this happened, like, believe it or not, August 5th. And I mean, I was laid up for almost about a month and 3 days. And then my wife was here, she'd tell you, for about 10 days, they had to induce, because they found out, and this is where the war kind of gets heavy on us, the Gulf War, the stuff that they kind of shoot us up with. So we kind of go through the traumas of those things, but I had that happen to me for us, and like it says, going back to trauma, the pain that has been passed down from father to son. Can you imagine that? The generation to generation of our lives. And, and I've seen that for us, the trauma to magnify, whether it's the lack of self-confidence or for us, like I said, imposing for us, like syndrome, or and I'm just going to say the belief that successful or success is just what? Too far to reach. And see, these are the things that happen with us. And this is often the root cause of why many black men struggle, And the good news is, and I just wanted a little touch on this because I thought about this one, and you'll like this one. The good news is that a black man does not have to remind or remain stuck. Remember, you got self-awareness. You
Mm-hmm.
have mentorship programs. You have community support, just like what you're doing, Dr. B, for us. And people, that's why I was saying the internet is there, but can you imagine your community? And even what I have on today, being a member of the American Force Legion, for located here for us in Charlotte, 262. It's a lot of older men that's in there, so they can kind of pave the path to veterans like myself and a few others. So, the mentorship and the self-awareness is there, but we got to look for it and find it. And sometimes we're in a community, we just sat back and said, woe is me. So, when I think about one of the greatest gifts though, receiving in my time as, watch this, as a combat engineer, I'm in Iraq, Afghanistan, Desert Storm, and all this other little stuff as an engineer, and even an athlete, was my power of mentorship. Few people took me under their wing, like the sergeant or the platoon sergeant, or even some of the coaches and some of the other track athletes, like a Carl Lewis or Mel Labney. They kind of told you, they said, you could do a little bit better. So see, the mentorship is there, and sometimes we don't recognize that. I had mentors who showed me what was possible and who helped me for us to navigate through any obstacles. So, when I think about, I don't have for us, like it says, to know it exists because it happened to me. So, by sitting around others, and I look at my grandfather, I look at my father, sitting around, even mentorships from them, gave me a positive influence. And we have positive influence like Dr. B here for us on this, as I say, podcast. And what people don't realize, you can pick it up anywhere. And I just want to go back to that self-awareness, mentorships, and community support. You got to continue to, like it says, look for that. But also, if you don't find it, go out and reach out and get it. So then, like it says, black men can be free themselves, or can free themselves through, guess what? Free themselves from the chains or the bonds of like what has been happened to us throughout the ages. We have the abilities to change our narrative. And I'm just going to say that for it's not just, ourselves, but can you imagine the future of every generation? And then I wanted to hit on, that was another question that you kind of gave. What are your thoughts about, and I love this one for Dr. B, the 5 pillars: identifying, trust, faith, finance, and of course that biggie, health. What would I choose, for others, and why? And I'm just gonna say these 5 pillars for us: identify, trust, faith, finance, and health are absolutely essential for building. And remember, I told you I'm an engineer, building that foundation, building that foundation for success in your life, but not just yourself, for success in your life, others also. Because people are going to see what you do and they go emulate, especially some of the kids I coached in track, coached in football, and even I was a social professor of military science. And look, believe it or not, part of one of my assignments at North Carolina A&T to kind of share and show the military to young soldiers in North Carolina A&T senior ROTC program. So see, it can be at any level. So, when I think about all that, when we understand the interconnection of the 5 pillars, and I just want to get into the first one, identifying. The journey of freedom
Identity.
starts.
Identity. Yeah.
Yeah. Identity for stars, believe it or not, identity starts is the journey starts with identity first. And I can't emphasize enough how knowing who you are and what up, you heard that? Who you are. And matter of
Who
fact,
you are.
hey,
Yeah.
I put a little plug in. Look, I'm gonna put a little plug in. Here's my book. Who Are You with Adolphus Bethune? And it's a book out there on Amazon, but also my podcast. So, but and I love that. For like I said, I'm gonna make it informative, but also educational for you, but also kind of humorous to kind of let you know I'm like it says, a funny guy, but also inspiring guy, but also like Dr. B mentioned, we got to know who we are and what we can achieve. And that's some of the things. And when I go back, and I'm just going back to my notes again, are shaped up as part of your life. In my years as a leader in the military, and see how that kind of force got into play, one of the things that stood out to me was my soldiers. If you It's almost like the job. If you take care of your soldiers, your force, they'll take care of you. And if you're an entrepreneur, if you have a business, if you running after the money and not thinking about your people, guess what's going to happen? For your business is not going for flourish. So you got to
Mhm.
always be thinking about your people. And me, for I learned that a valuable lesson, just like I was saying, the soldiers who knew themselves, but also had an idea for, like it says, clear signs of purpose and a mission were the ones that succeeded. And then, like I said, if you thinking about for if you wanted to succeed, and even a black man, can you imagine have a clear sense of purpose and a mission, like what Dr. B mentioned? For those were, some to me one of the one factors regarding for their background. If they have that, hey, they will achieve no matter what. For they understood their strength, weaknesses, and even for his operating from a place of clarity. And then when I also think about for us, your identity is not just sharing your concerns or what's happening around you, but how you define yourself. Has, like me, for example, I have been a soldier. I have been for us, like it says, I'm just gonna say this, a world-class athlete for us and an entrepreneur, for us, a professor, a teacher. So some of us we may fall in line with wearing a lot of titles, but can you imagine doing those titles? You think about what was important, defining for us who you are, and beyond of what your title was. Believe it or not, like it says, I was an Army officer, an engineer officer in the United States Army Corps of Engineers. So see, that was one cliche, but a little title that we force kind of earned. But can you imagine? I earned that through, going to school, having a Bachelor of Science degree, for and then learning and training for. So, we as people, gonna have that. So I had to recognize the value as a person first, and knowing, watch this, and you'll like this, who you are or who you want to become.
Mhm.
And so those are things that you can become unstoppable if you believe those things. Then
Oh
the
yeah.
second pillar, and I got to get into the second pillar, is trust. Trust is one of those ones that it's an intangible thing for us that often takes for granted or has been taken for granted, and it breaks up a service. Me for And I remember this, when me as a project manager or a Army for like it says Corps of Engineer, can you imagine going on a project site, or even what I'm doing now with the entrepreneurship? One of the biggest challenges was for me to manage, watch this, diverse teams or diversity. A person from Mexico, a person from, for believe it or not, Costa Rica, a person from for Asia, a person from for that's Arabic descent, speak Arabic. So, you have different skills of personalities, backgrounds, and even religious backgrounds. So can you imagine that magnitude? So when I look at all that, Dr. B, I was looking for the secret sauce. I
Did you
was trying to
find it?
find, look, I was trying to find the secret sauce. But guess what?
Mhm.
The secret sauce is trust. First, they got to believe in you. And if they
Yes.
believe in you, the trust factor is there.
Hmm.
So, and I had to say that one because it says trust among team members is what allows a unit to function seamlessly, or whether you are building, look, infrastructure or completing a mission in combat. Trust. And in my life, like I said, it's from me being an athlete, a student, even a father, a grandfather, and all these little things that I can title up. The whole point is, to me, it's like trust is the glue that holds relationships together, businesses, community, togetherness, and without trust, everyone fails apart, or falls apart. So to
Mm-hmm.
me, when I think about that second pillar, trust is also critical within ourselves. Self trust is the foundation, like I was saying, in order for me to build a building or start the structure, I'm gonna start at the bottom down, the soil, and then gonna come up. So that's my foundation. The foundation for your self-confidence. Risk taking is also, where you get all that from, because you have trust and confidence in yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
trust that your hard work will pay off, and it will, because you have trust in yourself and the people around you. That trust will have for the resilience to, watch this, and I love this one, to help you bounce back from any type of barrier or obstacles from which you have failed on. And then without this kind of self-belief, it's hard to make any progress or anything that you want to do. So to me, like it says, that pillar trust is a biggie. Now the next one I just wanted to hit on, and I love this one, faith. Faith
Mm. Yes.
is often the factors that watch this, that keep you moving when everything around you or everyone else is saying quit. Can you imagine that? And I've had that. The name says when you start your business, or the name says when you're going out to compete, oh, you'll never make it. You be like, really? Watch me. Watch
Mm-hmm.
what I
Yeah.
do. So that's what you just have faith in yourself, but faith in, what you can do. And even me, I wanted to bring this up because me and you kind of relate to this. My experience as a sprinter, the 100 to 200, if I wanted to be one of the top. So, I had to have faith that was unwavering, just about the belief in a higher power. And I tell most people, if you don't have that belief, you never amount to really anything that you want to achieve. And it was about believing in the process. It was about putting in, watch this, the work day to day, because we already know. I see the young people nowadays, they want instant fame. They want instant degrees. They want it all. But when I look at the football today, it's like all about the mighty dollar. But is it about the dollar, or is it about the work you put in today and day after day for us to make you even better? So even when I don't see the immediate results when I was competing, and even in the military and even in the classroom, if I studied hard, I got that test back and said, oh man, 90, oh, 80, but I put in the work. And it's almost just like being on the track field too. If I didn't work on my start, if I didn't work on my ending, you have to know, what you need to do and how to do it. So, you got to put that hard work in and day out. So faith is also trusting the journey,
Yeah.
and I love that even when the path seems unclear, and it's about knowing that the setback is going to come. But watch this, and I love this one. If the setback is coming and are not for permanent, and that's what I would tell people. Your setback is not permanent. You can look yourself in the next day and say, look, okay, I didn't pass. I didn't, for as like it says, get first, but hey, I'm not stopping. So, you got to know within yourself, you can do that. So rather than be part, of the growth of the process, you go ahead and utilize that for us, and I wanted to was go to this one. In the military again, faith was, like it says, the cornerstone of everything we did. Faith in each other, in the mission, and in our training, whether we are dealing with, watch this, personal losses, where we may have lost a person that day, or you may have had, like it says, your wife may send you a Dear John letter because you stand deployed too much, or, or your career is struggling. You may be a reservist, and you in there and you worried about your job and all this other little stuff. There was a lot of strenuous things that was going on, even your health. A few people had health issues like bad feet and all this other little stuff. So, but faith allows you to stay, watch this, grounded, and find the meaning for, or find for the message of what is hardship. And once you find that for you can deal with anything. And then I think about that fourth pillar, finance. And hey, when we talk about finance, I don't know about you, if you live paycheck to paycheck, you know what I'm talking about. So for me, finance has been a game changer for us. and I don't for like it says didn't grow up for with a financial education, or my family was not rich. But some when I'm in Tallahassee in Florida, they may say that word, I'm po. I said, what? You po? I said, I didn't even know I was po, because I said my mom and dad worked, and we we had a radio, we had a, like it says, a TV that worked sometime, and we had, although me and my brothers we was in a triple bunk beds in a house, but hey, we didn't know we was po, you know, but the real reason I wanted to say that, because we was not taught financial for his education growing up in any high school and colleges, especially not what's going on now. Can you imagine the internet for us? Bitcoin for us. You got the AI that'll do things for you. We didn't have all that. So me for us, I wasn't. It wasn't until I started my career that I realized how critical it was understanding money. Not just how to earn it, but also to manage it. Because we're not taught those things. How we only taught how to earn it, but not how to manage it. And that's why I think so many sheer athletes, like basketball players and football players, and even some track athletes, get themselves in trouble because they don't know how to manage their money. They get money and they say, "Oh, I'm gonna go get the big house. I'm gonna go get the big car." Then all of a sudden, up, hey, there's a guy out there, and I'm gonna tell his name, IRS. He's coming for you because he wants you to pay. you know. So, but that's just one. Like I said, I wanted to keep it humorous, but also informative to you. Because we have not been taught how to manage our money or how to invest our money. And whether you are a combat engineer, whether you are, you know, athlete, a teacher, for a doctor like Dr. B and a few others out there for us, whatever your degree is, can you imagine learning how to manage a multi-million-dollar project was one of my things I had to realize as a military person, but also as a civilian, navigating the world of business and understanding for us the finances is critical for long-term freedom, but also success. So, in and I'm just gonna hit this one hard for us, Dr. B. In a black community, watch this. Financial education is oftenly overlooked and undervalued, but it's one of those most empowering tools we can give ourselves, but also not just ourselves, our community, about how to, like it says, what I mentioned about how to earn, how to manage, and even how to invest. So I think about the person that introduced me to Dr. B, James Young. He's one of those guys. He kind of shares with you the literacy of, can you imagine, real estate, how to manage your money, that type. And he's mentoring a few other veterans and a few others around for us about, financial literacy. Because that's, to me, financial literacy does not just mean budgeting, or it's about creating wealth, you know, the that you can last on for as a generation. Because I look at, and I'm like I said, old school. I remember the Kennedys. Can you imagine their father? I'm just gonna say it was a bootlegger, or just like everybody knew. But hey, he was not just a bootlegger. Can you imagine? For every time somebody buys some alcohol, his family says, "Ching ching." So see,
Mm.
that's generational wealth. So those are some things that we need to understand. How do we create generational wealth? And maybe, and I've been taking a few courses that I've been learning too, the IULs and Bitcoin. Also some of those key things that we was not taught growing up. So it allows us to break free from the cycle of what's this poverty and inequality was, and sometimes the earlier we learn how to manage and grow our finances, the more we are able to shape our futures or our future, create lasting impacts on for our families, but also our community. And the last one for us, when I think about, is health. Your health is like what the old cliche says, your health is wealth. And I do mean that, for like I said, some of the trauma that I went through back in August, I thought for as I was invincible. I'm a for how they say Army Ranger and who guy, track guy, I felt like I could run and look fitness for days. But hey, sometimes, just like it says, just knowing what your purpose is, if you're not taking care of yourself, going to the doctor, checking your pressure, and I would always say, just like, you're a car. Can you imagine you go, if your car is click, 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 you're going to take it to get an oil change and get it checked over, right? Your
Mm-hmm.
body should be the same way. You should do a checkout for what's happening with your body. And like it says, as someone who trains in for as an elite athlete or a elite engineer in the United States Army, I saw firsthand how physical fitness impacts the mental and emotional. And that big word for is mental, because we have a lot of people mental stability right now is questioned. So that one impacts your mental and your emotional for its well-being. So when I think about health, goes beyond physical fitness. It stands right up there with, can you imagine, your mental and your emotional health as well. And then in my role as an engineer, a consultant, an engineer, for even an associate professor of military science at North Carolina A&T, I realized that, I had seen how stress and poor health can affect everything for in your life, from making decisions or decision making to your relationship. And it's vital that we have invested in our mental and physical health, because without it, I'm gonna tell you, hey, put me down for as I was down for almost a month and 3 days, and I'll tell you, I had to learn how to walk, learn how to talk. And can you imagine, for as like it says, going to the bathroom, I had to have two people to help me. So watch your health, because sometimes you think you're healthy, but you need to go for get a checkout and just know that. So those are some key things that I realized, from a standpoint of who I was and what had happened to me at that point. So when I look at all that and I say, it sounds a sound mind and a body allows you to fully embrace your potential in any area of your life, whether you're a black man, black woman, or whoever's listening to this podcast, you know. And some of the additional pillars that I would throw out, when I was thinking about this, Dr. B, your purpose,
Mm-hmm.
just like what you mentioned, the
Yeah.
resilience for a person. Can you imagine that? And to me, because to me, when I think about what you said, purpose is what drives you. It's your
Mm-hmm.
why. And can you
Yeah.
imagine in business and entrepreneurship, like my mentor always told me, your why should make you cry. Can you imagine that?
Wow.
So, and the real reason why I
Wow.
say that your why, because your why is when you have a clear purpose of it gives you your direction. Can you imagine? I'm just gonna say it. I was a prepaid legal or legal shield associate, and I had people that would come up to me and say, "Hey, I don't have this. I don't have no money." I said, "But I got a question for you." I said, "So if you had for us to go out and you didn't have your license, stuff like that, what would you do then?" So I put it in a perspective of, what is your why? You want to go out, and that's what's wrong with us today as black men and even black women. When I walk to construction sites now that I'm back home, back here since January 18, 2024, when I ride around as being a construction or engineer guy, I see a lot of Mexicans. I don't have no, for like it says, no crumbs against Mexicans, for Jaquinos or no one. Because see, we used to do those jobs. And see, we have become like what my grandfather told me when I was growing up, says, "Oh, B, you have become too bourgeois." I said, "What? Too bourgeois?" I had to look, hey, Dr. B, I had to look that word up, bourgeois. So, but in so many words is we have become beyond that. It's like, okay, I won't get on top of the roof. It's hot, or I won't get down in the hole. It's dirty, So we have gone to that, but yet when it comes down to what our purpose is, and if we want to make some money, believe it or not, they get the job done. I mean, I see them. I went to that I'm back here, like she's doing some building construction, working with, and I'm just going to say this for, you know, I'm working with a small business group through Commissioner Val Malik and Mr. Mark Stewart. And these people, believe it or not, we sat in a meeting, and me being an engineer there, have crossed a few, and a few people have not been out of the U.S. So when I tell them my story, they say, "Really, really?" I said, "I've been to Haiti, I've been to the Horns of Africa, and see people that look just like us, black people. But can you imagine the genocide and all these things are happening to them?" And so, we got to understand when you have a clear purpose, it gives you your life direction and helps you stay focused. See, that's a key word. Stay focused. That why would drive you. It's like having a roadmap. And you know how we get, look, with it. I'm just gonna say this. I was out look trying to find something here in Charlotte now, and I've been gone for 10 years. My my GPS says turn right, turn right, turn right. I'm like, I'm going the right way. GPS, I was waiting for the GPS to say, look, Dr. B, look, stupid, you going the wrong way. So but sometimes we got to have that for us. It's like our roadmap for us, that why would help you, kind of navigate the world, but not just navigate the world, for stay consistent, knowing for distractors or things that can take us down. And then the resilience piece, when I think about it, I'm like, can you imagine this? The resilience is the ability to bounce back from any adversities. Life is kind of throws at us, and they're full of challenges that we kind of go through. If it's not mental, it's health. For if it's not, you know, money up, I don't have enough, one paycheck to paycheck. Okay, what you doing about it then? Life was can throw a lot of things at us, and it's not always the strongest or the most talented people that succeed. I mean, because I think about Michael Jordan is in this area, and remember when he played in North Carolina, you know, he didn't even get picked up at first. Remember, for his playing high school ball, they didn't even pick Mike. So he had to like it says, okay, that was one of his failures. But he said next year, I'm gonna make y'all pay. Because he was out there putting the work in, shooting the jumpers, doing such and such, and now look at it.
Yeah.
So sometimes we got to be that way. Those who can get back up after they fall down for us, that's a resilience, to me is a muscle memory. It's like for any muscle that for the more for we use it, the stronger it becomes. And your heart is that way too. If you're getting out there and you hadn't done exercise and then you get out there, you walking and you huffing and puffing. The heart trying to say, look, buddy, come on now. You need to get up out,
Mhm.
get up off that stair step and maybe walk up the steps or take the long way because hey, we already know if we go into a business meeting, a lot of people grab the elevator. And I normally say,
Mhm.
watch this. Say, what floor is it on? Oh, it's on the 5th floor. And I'm on the 1st floor. I'm gonna walk. See, I'm gonna get my exercise in, you know. So that's what I tell people. Hold on a moment for us. Like it says, I have my cheater sheet here, as I would say, my notes. I kind of
There
jotted all
you
this
go.
stuff
Yeah,
down because
you covered them
look,
well. Oh my gosh.
and look, I'm an analytical, so that's the engineer in me, Dr. B. That's why I told you I got that name growing up, Dr. B, because I'm gonna analyze, I'm gonna write it down. Because I want
Love
people
it.
to realize what was always told to me too was Dr. B that says if you put it down on paper, you'll remember it better. So if you
Yeah.
write it up, if you do some key things for us, it'll stay with you longer. So that's what I did. I took the 5 pillars and I said, I'm gonna break it down and make it to a word. This podcast is very understandable for people. But
Mhm.
like, watch this. What is trauma? And like I told you, I'm an analytical, so I want to know what the freak is trauma. I mean, so it says trauma is not just the big life altering events we tend to think about. Really? Like combat. Watch this. And I'm sure a lot of people are like this one. Sex abuse. Really? What? Or accidents. And that's just the typical ones. But when I started to think about this, trauma can also be the small for as like it says, ongoing events, that we were from day to day, like what a black man goes through. They have already told us, hey, we are less inferior. You can never amount to anything. So to me, that's trauma. And then people wonder why does for I look at the prisons. You know, I'm a construction guy. Every year people be careful of what you say and do because can you imagine they already have a lick against us because we're black and
Yeah.
they're building more prisons to put us in. So that's what I tell most people for but going back to because look my wife done got back now so look she told me to stay focused so it's like you don't for us have to look says down over time the emotional for neglect
Mhm.
or the micro look for adjustness, or the lack of for, as I would say, representation. Can you imagine that? Or the day-to-day stress. And we go through that. We have to navigate life with barriers in many ways. It can be the feeling of being, watch this, unestimated. What? Unestimated, really? Or overlooked. And that's what happens to us as black men. They underestimate us. We're got to be
Mhm.
3 times better, or we're being overlooked because, hey, they'll take a black woman over us any day now. So, and why is that? And many
Yeah.
times
Let
in the
me ask you a question
military,
real
and
quick. I'm gonna stop you
yeah,
just a quick, because you've mentioned a few things that I want to really get your input on. You talked about a sound mind,
okay,
and you kind of talked about being healthy, and we talked about health. On the mental health side, I know you've been part of the military, and you've come back from combat, and you've come back from,
yes.
some crazy stuff. How do we make sure as black men that we're taking care of our mental health as much as we're taking care of our physical health? What are
Wow,
some
and
things
that's
we can do?
to me, that's a biggie one for Dr. B, because to me, your mental health, it could be trauma, just like you say, going back
Hmm.
to you growing up, and you already know, that you being a black man for they already has that. That's the one strike against you because you're black. Then you're a male. That's 2 strike. So now the mental force thing to you, you got to like is have to have outlets. The outlet could be have a loving wife or a loving family members that support you into no matter what you do. Or you can have, like says what I brought up before, that community for the mentorship programs that you gotta force find for yourself in order to help bring you up. And to me, being in the military, every night my wife says I jump, because like I says, I've been in Desert Storm, I've been in Iraq, I've been in Afghanistan. So the PTSD is there for me, but how do I deal with that? Just like what you kind of mentioned, I go out and talk to others, but I also share it with her. So some of us, if we're going through these traumas, don't keep it bottled up inside. You got to get it out, because if it's bottled up inside of your body, for what people don't realize, that's another risk that affects your heart, that affects your body, that affects you as a person. So now you lashing out, and then you wonder why you lashing out, because you're not getting treatment, and that treatment sometimes could be just you talking to a loved one, or talking with your wife, or talking with someone about what you're feeling. And to me, that's how I would deal with it, for and what I've learned from coming back and all this other stuff. If we can reach out to people, and even like what I'm doing now, what I just came back from, talking with some of the American Legion guys that have been through, watch this, is going through they're back in there, but they went to Korea and for the Korean War, for World War II. Talk with them about what they're experiencing, but what they're not getting as a black man, and what was literally told to me from first pope when they came back. They was unestimated as a person. Although they was a American veteran soldier, had been in combat, but they was unestimated or even overlooked. Now some of those ones that I'm talking to now, I'm meeting them every day, just like I met James at the VA hospital here in Charlotte. Sitting down, talking with them, making them feel better about who they are, but also what they can become, and taking some of that trauma away from them, sir.
Oh, that's so cool. We have we man, you've given us so much, and we have about 3 minutes left. What is one thing that you want to make sure you leave with everybody, as far as what to do or who to contact, or contact you for to read your books? What are some things that people can do to make sure that they get unstuck, or just be able to move forward in life, with their purpose? What would you want to leave everybody with?
Well, I mean, when I look at for you kind of narrowed it up to me. When I look at, like what you mentioned, I'm an author, I'm an entrepreneur, was engineer, watch this, a grandfather, and even a husband. When I look at all that, and I kind of jotted this down too, because I want everyone to realize, if you have all these things, the partnerships within your relationship and the support pieces, that's why I brought up was what I said. You can become grounded and being respectful too, but also the source of motivation for your personal growth and success is often from these support channels. And what I leave with everyone is the combination of all these roles that we kind of share, no matter what it is, you know, it's a multiple dimensional life that helps us be balanced. And one hand, you can draw the strength and experiences in one area, and the other area, just like me, my creative side, and I'm sure like you, for being a creative side for as an author, or the technical side, skills of being an engineer, strategic mindset sets into play for, as an entrepreneur. And when I think about all that, on the other hand, these roles can pull you, watch this, pull you in different force degrees. So you can kind of spiral out and say, whoa, woe is me.
Mhm.
So some of the things that I would say, the key challenges is you got to find harmony in your life, whether it's going out, being for, like it says, with the boys, being with the girls, or just getting on the internet, finding something that you love doing. And, that's the harmony of life. But then the other little piece, you brought up a good point. If they really want to find me, go ahead and put in my name,
Mhm.
Adolphus Bethune. And if you put in Adolphus Bethune, it'll kind of go to maybe a few links that's out there. Because, like it says, my podcast, Who Are You with the Adolphus Bethune podcast. And then even the books that I have was, Little Dada's Big Adventure on, it's, believe it or not, on Amazon. So if you
Okay.
put it out there, you can go to link and forwards dot, what is it? Link tree / Adults Bethune, and that's where you can find me. But if you also want to find me, you can get with Dr. B. For I'm gonna also, when this podcast is over, I'm gonna give him, like it says, my email address, my name, or is it even the website to where they can reach out. And I want you not to just reach out to me. You reach out to Dr. B, because this journey of freedom for it's, how can I say, when we think about we as black men, and I give him kudos. That's why I put on my, like it says, kept my stuff on, because I salute him. And the reason why I salute him, because it's not easy. As a black man, try to reach out to 100 black men, and we all go through, like it says, ups and downs. But I wanted to make this informative, but also make it to where if you want to reach back to him, because like it says, I told him before, you are. Can you imagine your friends that you keep? Can you imagine if you have 5 friends that's broke, you become the next broke friend. So now I'm hanging around with a Dr. B. I'm hanging around with James. I'm hanging around with, these are people that have been on his podcast. Greg, for like it says, Jackson, you know, and a few other for that, that I have the list here, but I know by time, we can't name them all. But think about doing this, continue to go on your journey and to become free as a black man. It's not easy, but we know how to deal with the challenges. You can reach out to Dr. B. You can reach out to me. You can reach out any ones for us on this podcast, and we're here to support you no matter what it is. Mentorship, community involvement, and even sitting down and talking to you about that big key one is financial. Because we have not been taught how to be investors. We have not been taught how to be real estate people. All they told us, look, I remember this one, Dr. B. Go to school, make the good grades, and what? Work for someone.
There you go. There you
And
go.
I thank you, Dr. B, for your time. Or
Absolutely. Well, and we appreciate you being on. There's so much wisdom and things that we were able to glean from today. I took lots of notes. I got 2 or 3 pages of notes. I've written them down. Hopefully, we can have you back on sometime as we continue to move forward. And so, for those of you who have not subscribed yet, go ahead and click the subscribe button. Make sure that you are listening to some of these podcasts, because every one of these has the ability for you to be able to move forward, for you to be able to get into things in life that you would love to have. And so, as you go through, we're going to hit our goal. There's his showing his book here again. I will put his information, his book links in the comments here. We'll pin them so that you'll be able to get to them. Uh, as you move forward, we're going to hit our goal of 100 black men this year, and then we're going to move forward next year and do another 100. And so we're going to continue to do this because we want to spotlight folks who are getting it done. So you guys have an amazing, awesome, just incredible day today. Don't forget you are God's greatest gift. We can't wait to have you on the next episode, and we will talk to you soon.